Okay.
Going live in 1 minute. Sorry, 10
Righto.
seconds. 10 seconds.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Huntersville Council meeting.
Going live in...
Well, it says it's live at the moment, but is it live?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Welcome, everybody, to Huntersville Council meeting number 4500 on the 20th of September 2021. I'd like to do the acknowledgement of country. I would like to show my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land of elders past, present and emerging on which this meeting takes place. Mr. Acting General Manager.
Now the prayer, we thank you, Lord, for the honour of being called by our fellow citizens to this office of honour and trust. Give us grace, diligently and honourably, free from private interest or prejudice, to discharge the duties entrusted to us to the common good and as in your sight, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Okay, apologies for this evening. There are none. All councillors are present. Declarations of interest for this evening. Councillor Miles.
Just wanting to declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest on item 4.11. It's just an application noted on there in my street.
I'd also like to declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary conflict for 4.11 as one of the applicants is a neighbour of mine. Any other declarations? If not, now move on to confirmation of the minutes of the meeting 4499. Moved by Councillor Miles, seconded Councillor McLaughlin. Is there any discussion? Put the minutes. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. We now move to a mayoral minute, which is item 2.1. And the subject of the mayoral minute is celebrating 20 years of the Harbour Trust. I'd like to move that the report be received and noted. Councillor Sanderson, the Deputy Mayor, has seconded that. This is a very significant event in Huntersville's history, as well as the whole harbour of Sydney. It is sort of one of those special occasions which Huntersville often enjoys, where it has a very significant win, and this is no exception. It's probably akin to the Kelly's Bush or the Nelson Parade, the high school merger processes, the aircraft noise issue. It goes on. Our community stand up for what it believes in and is very successful in maintaining those beliefs, because if our community hadn't stood up and fought for the areas around Woolwich there, the horse paddock, the docks area, then there would have been medium density development built on there. And look at the incredible asset which we now have, because of people in our community have battled and fought against poor decision making to end up having an outstanding area for our community. And all you had to do is go down there during COVID, and it's just a splendid location by the harbour. The Harbour Trust, which was formed 20 years ago, plays a very significant role right around the foreshores of the harbour. And at the moment, it is looking very seriously at developing master plans for Cockatoo, which is just adjacent to us, and also North Head. And as we move forward, or as they move forward with the planning processes for Cockatoo, our council will be invited to have its comments. We should also acknowledge the major group that fought the battle locally, which was the Woolwich 2000 group, which Alison Rives, who's now no longer with us, and Richard White played a significant role. Our former Mayor Sue Hoopman and General Manager Barry Smith also were very much involved in making sure that our voice was heard. So all in all, it's a day to acknowledge and recognise the contribution that has been made by our residents in celebrating the outcome, which is now 20 years strong. Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this very important minute to Council. It's one that I'm deeply touched by, really. I mean, the battle has continued long after, sadly, Alison Rives has left. When there was a review on the Foreshore or Harbour Trust properties which commenced back in 2019, unfortunately, those meetings clashed with council meetings and most of us were not able to attend. The final one didn't, and I went along, and to my surprise, I think I met a lot of people from Woolwich and other parts of Hunters Hill that night. The passion has continued about keeping those important sites in public or in the public, open to the public good in perpetuity. This is incredibly important. I think I said later when I brought a notice of motion to council about council, I'm grateful that this entire council backed me in our submission that we made about the importance of the ongoing perpetuity of the Harbour Trust. Quite apart from Cockatoo, or quite apart from Woolwich docks and parklands and all the area of council land down there, Cockatoo Island itself has an incredible relationship with the people of Hunters Hill. We still have all of the many of the workers' cottages in Alfred Street and other places. That connection extends back. I mean, as I think I said at the time, my father grew up in Ferdinand Street. He did his apprenticeship there as a turner and fitter before he went off to the Second World War. During during my time at school, many of my school colleagues and also people I'd sailed with did their apprenticeships there quite often as shipwrights. It's been a very connected place to Hunters Hill, and I think we need to watch over this one extremely carefully as a council. Whatever occurs there must respect all of that heritage, regardless of whether it's Indigenous or whether it's colonial, whether it's maritime, whether it's military, and the odd civilian boat that they actually built there. I remember as a kid watching the Empress of Australia being launched. It is Cockatoo Island is something that's incredibly important to the people of Hunters Hill. Anything that happens there in the future must be respectful of all of that heritage, and it must also respect our residents who put so much into, from Alison Rives' time right through to now, who put so much into ensuring that Cockatoo Island remains in public hands and open for all the right reasons. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this minute.
Is there any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Crassoy.
Just quickly, Mr. Mayor, to note that I'm certain that if we had been in chambers tonight, there would have been members of the community here to see you read out this mayoral minute, which is so thoughtfully put together. And thank you for doing it on behalf of council. And congratulations to those members of the community who may or may not be watching, who feel so strongly about it, particularly Phil Jenkin, whose name's mentioned in there. I think that this mayoral minute would make a wonderful library talk one day soon when we can get back into our library spaces. I think it's just a really interesting story. And I'm also hoping, Mr. Mayor, that you'll be sending a copy of it to our federal and state members, because I think they'd be really interested to see what you've put together here on behalf of the Trust and in acknowledgement. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I'll certainly do that. Any further debate? Yes, Councillor Miles.
Only just to say I was down at Clark's Point Reserve and at the Woolwich docks over the weekend, and it was amazing to see how many people are out there using it. And certainly since the Howard government established the trust 20 years ago, it is important to Hunters Hill particularly that these spaces, given I think a lot of people have found great use in particularly that part of Hunters Hill during COVID times. And I think that reading a lot of the commentary around Cockatoo Island particularly and its future, it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years where these go. But it's just fantastic to see that over the weekend and particularly over the last couple of months, how people have been out there using and utilising those spaces.
Councillor McLaughlin, you had your hand up.
Yes, I can't really add much other than to say that I am glad that there is still a community advisory committee attached to this, because I had the privilege of sitting on that with Phil Jenkin in the early part of my council, my first years on council, and it was a great experience. And I'm glad that we have community representatives that will be informing some of the redevelopment that might be happening at some of those sites. I know Phil was particularly agitated about the Middle Head proposals that were put forward at one point by the Foreshore Trust and, Federation Trust. And I think that was, he was quite forceful in his advocacy for that. So I'm glad that we still have that community advisory committee. It was disbanded for quite some time.
Any further discussion? Yes, you're right, Councillor McLaughlin. I'm actually on the Community Advisory Committee at the moment, and we've met probably about 4 times in the last 6 weeks during this master planning process. And several of the people on the committee are some of the originals, so that connection to the past is still there. And to their credit, they are listening to that group, and there's been significant not changes, but inclusions from those discussions. So, but it is important for us as a community to keep our eye on what's happening there, because large concerts, large activities out there could potentially have an impact on our municipality through parking and noise, etc. So all that's before us, and I'm certainly a strong advocate on that committee for what's gone in the past, and also what may happen in the future. So if there's no further discussion, I've had my right of reply. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it unanimous. We now move on to Councillor Sanderson. You're muted.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, could I move item 4.16 forward to the first or next item on the agenda, please?
What's the purpose?
Well, we do have speakers for the matter regarding Harding Reserve, and Harding Reserve comes in up in that motion as well as in item 3.1. So the title of that item is allocation of funding to priority projects.
Okay. So we deal with both the items together. Is that what you're proposing?
I believe that would be appropriate.
Yeah. Is there a seconder to that? Councillor McLaughlin.
Sorry, Matt. Haven't we got speakers for 3.1, and what you want to bring 4.16, merge them together or something?
I think that's the intent, because I think in 4.16 the matter is actually resolved, that it's probably best to deal with both issues together.
Yeah, look, I have no issue with that. I have no issue with bringing it forward.
If there's no further debate, we'll merge those 2 items together. All those in favour? Against? Declare that unanimous. We have 2 speakers in relation to one item within 4.16 and relating to the following notice of motion. So could we please have those two read? And I understand the acting general manager will read those on behalf of the residents. So the first one is Mrs. Hurley.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and councillors, apologies about my camera. It was working at the start of the meeting, but I can't get it functional. I can go to my phone if needed later on. The first request to speak, Ms. Hurley. 15 years ago, I was a member of the council formed Hunters Hill Playground Working Party. The group researched, designed and implemented playground upgrades throughout Hunters Hill. Parks upgraded included Buffalo Creek, Harry Shelley, Wheel Park. When it came time for Harding Memorial to be upgraded, council did not have enough money to complete the project and Harding Memorial missed out. I was able to negotiate a deal with council to match every dollar I could raise, and the local residents funded 50% of the costs of the park upgrade. Nothing has happened to the park since, other than maybe a softball top-up many years ago. It hardly seems fair that our well-used little community park misses out again. I listened to the park discussion at the last council meeting and the opinion tabled by Beck-Ho that the park is not used is simply not true. The park is in use daily throughout many times of the day, even with all the broken down equipment. I would like to support the request you have had from many other residents of the local area to reinstate the funds diverted away from Harding Memorial Park upgrade and repair the damaged equipment. My fear is that now council is aware of the defects, they will close the park as unsafe while other parks receive significant upgrades. How can we stop the closure of the park and ensure the upgrade is completed? The local residents should not have to fund another park upgrade. Are there any other parks in Hunters Hill that residents have had to fund themselves a first, let alone a second time? And that's the end of that.
Thank you,
statement.
Mr. Acting General Manager. Could you read the second statement tonight from Ms. Caldwell?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I just
Councillor
have-
Cross.
thank you. I just have a question off the back of that, if I may.
It's a bit hard if the person's not there. So.
It's through you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes.
So there was a mention towards the end of the submission that the resident is in fear that Harding Memorial is going to be decommissioned and is looking for assurance, I think, in her comment there that that is not council's intention. Through you, Mr. Mayor, does council have any intention of decommissioning or defunding or closing down Harding Memorial?
I believe not, and that's the benefit of bringing 4.16 forward, is that it clearly is in there, if council agrees to that adjustments, that it will be there and will be funded. I understand from our debate last time that that there had been some repairs or subsequent to that discussion. Mr. Acting General Manager, do you wish to
yes,
add to that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, there is no intention to close down Harding Memorial Playground. Some equipment, parts of the equipment were repaired. Another part has broken since, which we've got on order. We've just done an audit of all the softball areas and getting quotes to have all them upgraded. And tonight's budget allows for $30,000 to go towards the future upgrade of the park and work with the community to get a good result down there.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Presser?
Yeah, it does. Hopefully
Yep.
it gives the resident some assurance. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Acting General Manager, could you read the second
Yes, thanks,
statement
Mr.
from
Mayor.
Ms. Caldwell?
We and other Gladesville residents were very disappointed to learn that the funding for the upgrade of the Harding Memorial Playground has been diverted to Wheel Park. The Harding Memorial Playground is constantly used by children from surrounding streets. In fact, it is rare to go to the playground without at least one family using it. My own children attend the park on an almost daily basis. If council members are in doubt about how regularly the playground is used, I implore such members to make a few visits to the playground. The playground is in a poor state. I have separately emailed some photos to the council to demonstrate this proposition. Damage to the playground includes one, it is missing a rope and seat, photo 1, such that the remaining 2 ropes can no longer be used as intended. which has created a safety risk. 2, the wood is badly worn and splintered, see photo 2. Only last week, my daughter received a deep splinter in her hand from using the playground. 3, the slide has a jagged chip in it, see photo 3. I have seen a child badly scratch himself on this chip. 4, the chains are rusty, see photo 4. 5, the climbing rails are covered in chips, see photo 5. The seesaw and the climbing chains are very worn, seen photos 6 and 7. The photos amply demonstrate that the playground is needed repair and upgrade. As I understand it, one of the bases upon which the council decided to divert the funding was that a new Livy's playground is being built at Tarban Creek Reserve. The development of the Livy's playground is a great initiative. However, it will have a very different function. It will be a destination playground for kids throughout Gladesville, Boronia Park and Hunters Hill. No doubt it will also attract families from other suburbs. In contrast, the Harding Memorial Playground is a small local neighbourhood playground which is at the heart of our local community. The fact that a Livy's playground is being constructed does not alter the need for the Harding Memorial Playground to be kept in good order. I support the motion to allocate funding to Harding Memorial Playground. Thank you for your time.
Councillor Crassoy.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of questions. I'd like to put the motion though, with a small amendment depending on my question.
Well, you've put the motion. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Sanderson, yes, your changes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I through you, is it possible to explain, for the benefit of the council, but also for the residents who've made these submissions, is it possible to explain, please, the difference between maintenance, upgrade and replacement? And also for my benefit and the benefit of the council, do all of these categories, for want of grant windfalls, do all of these categories come from that line item in the budget, which is, I think, about $10,000 annually?
Mr. Acting General Manager, could you please help us with that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, the maintenance was coming through a line item of $10,000, and that would be to fix any broken equipment, replace parts, but not obviously to replace full pieces of equipment that comes through the upgrade process. In tonight's budget, we're allocating more funds to maintenance because there is a need for additional maintenance. And actually, I'm not sure if it was 10 or 20,000 for the maintenance in the budget, but we're certainly allocating more money tonight for maintenance. We've also in the process of undertaking a full playground audit through specialists just to get a list of all the maintenance issues that need to be attended to, and we'll use those funds to get that those things fixed. And then we'll work through the upgrade the upgrade replacement of equipment and the new park going forward. And that'll be what the money that we've reallocated to Harding Memorial tonight will do. That's the $30,000 to start the process. May not be enough to do the whole lot, but if we time it right, we'll probably need to put a little bit more money in the 2022-23 budget, but we'll get that. We'll get it all started by early next year by doing the master plan and getting the community input into it.
Thanks for the answer. So that audit that you're talking about doing, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Is that inspection program going to become an annual thing, or is that just a one-off audit that you're talking about doing? How do we inspect the maintenance is what I'm asking.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it will become a regular thing. I've asked the director, and we're looking at undertaking some training of our own staff so we can actually do it as a proper process, working through our insurer who has some funding for training. We're looking to use that funding to actually train staff to be able to do that on a regular basis. It should be happening every 3 months as an audit, so we know where everything's up to, and we'll make sure that happens going forward.
Okay, thank you. And then, so I would like to put the motion with a small amendment, if I may.
Yes.
And that is that so you've got points 1 and 2 at the moment, report, etc. The funding identified in table 1 be reallocated to projects identified in table 2. And then a further point, a point 3, which is inspired by the last, one of the last points on table 2, which is the annual budget for playground maintenance and inspections and upgrades be increased to $25,000.
Okay, that's part of that overall package. It's not, that's not in additional to, but that's inclusive of.
Mr. Mayor, that's, so in the package, it just says it's just a one-off.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yep.
$1,000. So I'm saying that the annual budget, which is currently about $10,000 a year, I think, that it be increased to $25,000 annually.
Okay. Does the seconder agree with that, Councillor Sanderson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy for that amendment.
Thank you. So that's the motion before us. You wish to speak to your Councillor Miles?
Just got a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Crassoy. Is this a new line item in table 2, or is this under the playground maintenance item, which is already in there, which is 25,000?
So in table 2, there's an item for a one-off $25,000 increase to the playground maintenance funding. And what I'm asking for in the amendment, that it be
made annual.
An annual, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Thank you.
Question, if I may.
Yes, Councillor Collins.
Is that the only, I just got cut off for a minute there. Is that the only thing, 25,000 recurring? Is that in the 0.3? Okay.
Yes, that's it. Do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Crassoy?
Thanks, I will, Mr. Mayor. I'm just, you know, I say excited a lot, but I am really excited about this report that the General Manager and the staff have brought to us. Most of the items in there have been languishing in plans of management, waiting for their moment to come into the sunshine, and some of them are newer items. And I called the General Manager after the last meeting and asked, you know, do we need to bring a motion to allocate more funding so that we can improve all our outdoor areas? And he said he'd put something together, and boy, has he put something together. It's at the briefing last week, I was just delighted. I think all the councillors were delighted to see all the projects that we've been hoping to find better funding for finally put together in a comprehensive report. And I guess it's been spurred on a bit by COVID and a bit by our changing demographic. But I think it's just been really creative. The other thing about it is it's been really responsible, because it's looked at our existing budget and all the items in our existing budget, and it has thoughtfully and rationally justified why they can be reallocated into this area for now to get some of these projects on the ground. It's as Ms. Hurley's letter said, it's been many, many years since our council area has seen such a significant tranche of upgrades for our younger and more outdoorsy members of our community. So I think by just adding in that little amendment that the budget be increased, and it's still probably not enough, and I'm hoping that one day we'll get a report back to make a recommendation for more, but I think it just gives us the opportunity to stay on top of that maintenance, because if you stay on top of maintenance, like with all of our assets, really, if you stay on top of the maintenance, then the asset declines at a slower rate, and it is of more use to the community for longer, which is better from a sustainability point of view, but it's also more financially sustainable. So thank you for this report, General Manager and staff, and I'm sure there'll be more interesting things to come. So I'll wait for right of reply.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I endorse all of the comments by Councillor Crassoy. I'm also very pleased to have a solution where Harding Memorial Playground will be appropriately treated, and I would thank the speakers tonight for bringing that matter to our attention, particularly the history. And the other thing I'm very pleased about with this recommendation that's largely come from staff, and in particular the director and general manager, is that if there's a sensible reallocation for these times of COVID, when we're going to see playgrounds being used more often, I would hope, and that this is just going to be so important, and that's one of the things we're very blessed with, and it's good that we now have a way forward where hopefully our playgrounds will stay in better condition. The other thing I'd like to highlight too, which isn't as obvious, is there are some attachments on the back of this report that the General Manager and Director advised councillors about at a briefing not long ago, with a number of projects that we're ready, or probably being or on the plate, ready to be shovel ready for when grant funding comes along. I think that's incredibly important. It's an embarrassment to be scrambling to know what to do when grants come this way. We've got a tranche of things that are hopefully ready to go, and we can be acted on at the time that funding has arrived. So yes, this is an excellent report by staff. For the items that have been deferred, I would see that as a deferral rather than it being them put off forever. So I think as times change, so some of those things will certainly come back and be funded by some other means. So again, I thank the General Manager, Director, and all the staff that have been involved in this report. Thank you.
Further discussion. Councillor Collins.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, look, I think it's a great report. There's a lot of projects on here to be funded for this year, and if they all get done, I think that'd be fantastic. It's quite a lot of work to be done, but they're all good projects that need to be done. Look, the only thing I'll probably say, and I think I'll probably do this by way of amendment. Look, some of the feedback I've got about Harding Memorial, and having had a look today, it's only a small playground, and it doesn't need to be any bigger because it's very much a little pocket park, community based park, but and lovely shading trees, but right where the playground is, that there's no it's very sunny, so pretty difficult to be used in the middle of the day, so which is might be right after nap time. So I think 30. I think we should. I don't want to say that we should have a shade cloth there, but I think that should be part of it. But what I would like to do is to allocate more funding. Just take it from 30 to 50, as the General Manager just suggested. 30 is not enough to actually get it done. I think 50 would make a positive impact. You'd be able to replace the play equipment and probably a shade sale as well, if that's sort of the decision of it. So I support the motion. I thank the staff for bringing this back. I really hope that you can get them all done. You have to get busy, but yeah. So I'll propose an amendment to upgrade that from 30,000 from Harding Memorial to 50, and I want to fund that from general reserves. Now we could go through and try and pinch something else out of the budget, but part of my reasoning for that is that a lot of the money we have, or half of it in the bank that's been sitting there for a long time, is from the sale of that car park in Gladesville, and that money was meant to go back into Gladesville. And I don't really think that's happened a lot. And I feel like it would be the interest income that we've earned from that money would well and truly fund a lot more of the pocket park upgrades in Gladesville. So I'm going to suggest we fund that from general reserves, which was ultimately from the sale of the car park, and take it from 30 to 50, and come back to just develop a great plan and consult with particularly those in the street, because a lot of people in that street and the surrounding streets are using it. Just consult and find out what they want, and let's upgrade this. And I have to say that you know, to hear that from Miss Hurley, the story about having to fund half of it, you know, the community back in 15 years ago. I mean, that's a terrific effort, and it was wonderful to hear about that story. I don't think we should have to get the residents to do that again. So let's take that. Let's take $50,000. Let's give a great new upgrade, long overdue, yeah. So
Is that an amendment you're
that's the
moving?
amendment. Yeah, upgrade from 30 to 50.
Is there a seconder to the
general
amendment?
reserves.
Mr. Mayor, I'm
Councillor
happy to
Cox.
take the amendment in on the advice of the General Manager.
Yep. Mr. Acting General Manager, is that something that...
Just with the question that when I emailed the General Manager on this the other day, I asked if 30,000 would be enough to do all the essential repair work at the park and some, and the reply from the General Manager was yes, that it would be. Through you, Mr. Mayor, will 30,000 be enough for it to be shady enough and repaired, or do we need to put this extra 20 to it tonight? Which, if that's the case, I'm happy to pull it into the motion.
Mr. Acting General Manager, could you advise,
Thanks, Mr.
please?
Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, my advice is that we've actually got money in the maintenance to do the repairs to Harding Memorial, and the 30,000 will go towards the replacement upgrade. Whether that we don't think that will be enough to do it altogether. We were looking that we'd start the consultation process, make sure the community is involved, we come up with design everyone's happy with, and then we would probably have to allocate a little bit extra in the budget next year to top it up. This would mean we could go a bit harder and a bit earlier, and maybe get it completed in the financial year. So I've got no issues with the extra 20, but just don't do it every meeting.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to see it get pulled in there.
So you've incorporated that into your motion.
Thank you.
The seconder agree with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. That now becomes the motion. Any further debate? If not, I'll just make a comment. I think it's important that we've reassured our community tonight that we do hold our playgrounds and the use of those playgrounds by a community very important in our minds. And the package which the Acting General Manager has put forward, as has been indicated by several of the councillors this evening, is very, very well constructed, very well thought through, and will give a lot of benefit not only to our playgrounds, but also to a range of other activities from bike tracks to whatever. So I'd personally like to thank the Acting General Manager for his foresight and his ability to pull together what is a very impressive package. And I agree, let's get on with it. And hopefully we can continue to provide these improvements, and being very mindful of the great use that people are making of our reserves and playgrounds during this time of COVID. It's just amazing. So right of reply, Councillor Crassoy.
Thank you. I'm really glad to see everyone supporting it. It's so lovely when we have such a wonderful report and the full endorsement of all the councillors, and the joy of the community when they see this start to roll out. So congratulations to everyone on it. I certainly do remember the impact that the community members had on me when I first moved to Hunters Hill, seeing them fundraise and work so hard for all of our public spaces. And it's certainly what made me feel so welcome into the suburb, and it is what made me want to be a participant. And I know Councillor McLaughlin would agree, we've certainly rolled our sleeves up and got involved at that community level as well. And gosh, it's been rewarding for us as individuals and for our families and for the whole community. And so thank you for those people for inspiring future residents to work beside council to get good outcomes. I'm glad to see that we're also going to have more regular ongoing audits and safety assessments of our spaces. I think if we'd had these in the past, we might not have gotten quite so fretful as we did over the last couple of months. So I'm really glad that that's going to be happening going forward. And I'm thrilled to see the newer projects like bike areas and improvements to skate areas coming through for the changing needs of the next demographic of kids. And I'm still maintaining that one day I want to see a parkour court somewhere. I'm respectfully happy to sit back and enjoy watching the director and the staff and the general manager advise us as council now that we've made sure that there's as much funding as we can add at the moment. And I'm hoping that in future they will come back to us with requests for further funding before it gets to the point where people start to worry that they're going to miss out, because of course we all know Harding Memorial was never going to miss out. It just got prioritised for a little while in order to see some funding go elsewhere for a little while. And it's been very sad for me to see on social media that people had thought that somehow Harding Memorial was going to miss out. And of course, all of us councillors knew that was never going to be the case. So I'm really happy to have the outcome that we have for everyone, for the community and for the council, to be united on this. And let's go play.
That closes debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. That now supersedes or deals with item 3.1. So we now move to the next item in the business paper, which is 4.1. Councillor Sanderson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll move the recommendation and ask that I be the second delegate to the Local Government New South Wales Conference.
Councillor McLaughlin has seconded that. Is there any debate?
Just a question.
Yes, Councillor Collins.
The financial impact said that there was none. Is the conference free this year, is it?
No, Councillor Collins. As I've done in recent conferences, I've paid for it myself. So I'll be doing the same. And I would assume Councillor Sanderson would be doing the same.
Oh,
they're
for the
online
ticket.
conferences, so they're not as expensive as visiting a different location.
So the ticket price will be paid for by the councillors.
I certainly will be paying, and I have recently for the previous conferences paid for my own.
And the deputy mayor as well, I assume.
Yes,
It's up to the deputy mayor.
Fantastic. Yeah, okay, I'll support that. Fantastic.
Any further debate? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. We now move to 4.2, which is general purpose financial statements for the year. There's a motion, a recommendation there. Is there a mover? Councillor Sanderson. Is there a seconder? Councillor McLaughlin. Is there any debate?
Just a question.
Yes, Councillor Collins.
If I may. Look, we've got a question with notice about the process later on. But I wonder if we could have another look at, and I know I always refer to Special Schedule 7, but if we could just have a look at, and if I can ask the General Manager through you, Mayor, about the estimated cost to bring the agreed level of service set by council.
Okay, Mr. Acting General Manager, could you assist with that question, please?
I think I'll have to ask the director to answer that if I could. I'll get it up on my screen.
Yep, no problem. Councillor Collins, is that the difference between the accounting treatment of Schedule 7 versus, is that the specific question?
No, the specific question is that if we look at the, so we've got the estimated costs to bring assets up to a satisfactory standard, which is total of all assets is 7,824 million. And the estimated cost to bring it up to a service step by council is 5,370. what I don't understand is from last year, the estimated cost to bring to a satisfactory standard was a little bit higher. It was about $1 million higher, but the service set by council hasn't changed at all.
Yep. Okay. So sorry. Let me just bring my. I'm bringing my paper down to Schedule 7.
Yeah.
So as you recall from last year, we went through a process of explaining the Office of Local Government determines the calculation, and you'll be familiar. I think it's in the Code of Accounting Practice. So if we go to 7, so just bear with me for 1 second. My computer is a little bit slow.
Which page is that on, if I could ask?
In the business
Oh,
paper.
it's the last page, second last page.
Last page.
Yeah.
Okay. And so your specific question is regarding which number?
The 5370, that whole column seems to be exactly the same as 2020. And I don't see how the cost of being to a satisfactory standard can change from year to year, but the standard set by council doesn't change, proportionally.
Okay. What I'd like to do is I'll take that question on notice, and as you'll be aware, we'll be presenting the final audited statements at the next council meeting. Schedule 7 doesn't get audited, as you'll also be aware.
Right.
So what I'll do is I don't want to give you an off-the-cuff answer, and I'll go back and go through and go back to the workings and give a more detailed answer. I think that'll be the most prudent thing to do.
Okay, and we can put it in the next business paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this doesn't get the audit committee don't look at this because it doesn't go to audit.
Yeah,
they don't seem to take an interest.
Okay. We've got an answer. We're not debating it. Is there any further debate?
I was just explaining that I'd like it published in the business paper.
Well, you can explain that. Is there any further debate?
No. Well, just a minor thing.
Is it a question or are you debating?
It's a question.
Good.
Just page 26 of the financial statements. I think there's a couple of the referrals because the notation system has changed. There's a reference to note 10 for the assets, and I don't think that's correct. So I think that there needs to be probably a bit of updating of the notes to the financial statements rather than numbers as well. Specifically on page 26, where we're talking about depreciation and amortization.
Yeah, let me just go to that now. Just bear with me. Now, these are drafts, and I certainly take that on board. Let me just have a quick, just bear with me for just 2 seconds. My technology is not as quick tonight as I'd like it to be. And I just want to make sure I'm getting the right section. Page 26. Okay. Sorry, the paragraph regarding impairment of non-financial assets is
no, the one above. Useful lives are included in note 10. Is that? I just couldn't find it.
Okay.
We'll come back to you, Councillor.
I'll certainly come back and we'll make those notes for them, and I'll come back as part of that questions with notice as well and give a bit more of an answer on that.
Okay,
thank you for that response. Is the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Not at this stage, Mr. Mayor.
No. Is there any further discussion? If not, yes, Councillor Miles.
Just to say, I guess, that we are putting these statements out to the auditors, and they do reflect operating deficit of $443,000 or a net operating result before capital of $2,304,000. So it's not obviously a good position for council to be in. I dare say that there'll be an item coming to the next meeting that will deal directly with this, but again, this is a situation that needs to be turned around at council, because operationally having these 2 million plus deficits year on year operationally, when these accounts we always say that we have to fund depreciation, and that's the reason for the operational deficit. Well, the depreciation this financial year is only around 400,000, and that's mainly depreciation on office equipment and the like. So significantly, it's not a good position for council to be in. There's going to have to be some fairly tough decisions made in the next couple of years to turn that around.
Any further debate? Right of reply, Councillor Sanderson.
Look, I'm cognizant of Councillor Miles' comments. We do have a 10-year financial plan which does set out a number of paths to take. I'm very confident in the work that council staff have done in that area, and I'm very confident that we will adopt one of those paths and see our way through. I don't think there's much more I can say on the debate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. We now move to item 4.3, which is the minutes of the audit and risk, and that's a recommendation to receive and note. Is there a mover? Receive and note. Councillor McLaughlin, seconder. Councillor Sanderson, any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. We now move to item 4.4, which is a licence agreement with the Happy Hens Social Enterprise Incorporation. Councillor Miles, you wish to move the motion, the recommendation?
Yes,
yep. Is there a seconder? Councillor McLaughlin, is there? Do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Miles?
Yeah, only to say that the Hens do a fantastic job down there, and this term of council, I think it was the first year of this term that we granted them access to that location. They've come a long way in that time, and I think that they're becoming a bit of an institution in that Henley precinct and at the Old Bowls Club. So I'm very happy for them to get another 12-month agreement. It might be the case that moving forward we look at potentially giving them a little bit more tenure over that, or some permanence over that location, because it's sort of hard after 4 odd years to see Henley Bowls Club without the Happy Hens out the front there with their community garden.
Yep. Is there any further debate? Comments? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. We now move to item 4.5, which is the mobile vending vehicle guidelines. Is a recommendation. Is there a mover of that? Councillor Crassoy. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sanderson. Wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Crassoy?
Not for now, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Miles, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just note that that the policy does on, and it splits the two types of vans. So the policy says that there can be no vans parked within 200 metres of a existing retail offering or equivalent retail offering. Have we set, through you, Mr. Mayor, have we set locations that these vans can set up that are 200 metres removed from, a village cafe or something? I just note that in a municipality of our size, that does sort of restrict our locations. And I did also want to know whether we put any provisions for nighttime trading after 7 p.m, because I did note that was also something that was specified in the report.
Mr. Acting General Manager, can you assist, please? Mr. Tobin, are you there? Yep.
Sorry, I'm here now. I'm not sure whether that's the Director of regulations, or Ms. Ho?
I can go if you'd like.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
the locations are all within further than 200 metres away from trading. We wouldn't allow, the only one that gets closest Clark's Point, we wouldn't allow trading anywhere near the deck house. And we've allowed till 7 o'clock. So it's 7 till 7 in our hours of trade.
That's brilliant. But in circumstances where there's maybe a special event, we've got provision to, you know, if we were holding a art show or festival or something in the future, we can give permission to the trucks to go trade till 10 or whenever.
That'd be a different condition because it'd be under the event rather than the food truck policy.
Yeah. No, it's good to know that there's locations, you know, far enough away from existing retailers.
Any further debate? Councillor Collins.
I just wanted to understand, I'm glad to see that the ice cream trucks aren't going to be charged. How are we going to go about, licensing them? What would be the process there? Because I understand there'd be a transition period. Is that right? Through you,
Mr. Acting General Manager, could you assist?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there will be a transition period. There will need to be there'll be an application form still, won't be any payment, and there does have to be health regulation checks on the vehicles. So they're all things that we'll bed down as we start to get the applications.
Okay, great.
Any further debate, questions? If not, put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. We now move to item 4.6, which is the portfolio review and proposed minor amendments to the investment policy for the year ending 30th of June 2001. There's a recommendation there. Is there a mover of that?
Starts a question, if I may.
We'll get a motion on the table first. Councillor Sanders has moved it. Is there a seconder? Councillor McLaughlin. Yes, Councillor Collins, do you wish to ask a question?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, the General Manager. Just for the benefit of everyone, can I just clarify that this is about single institution, exposure risk? Is that right? Is that the only thing that's changing? Maybe you could summarise the changes for us.
Mr. Acting General Manager, can you assist, please?
I've asked the Director to make comment.
No problem. Councillor Collins, that's correct. So basically the two main dot points are covered in the cover of the report. So they are minor. So it is just referencing the fact that irrespective of credit rating of an institution, that you should never just have an investment with 100% with one institution, and also updating some of the terminology. And in the attachment, we have the annotations in red and green subsequently, but they are minor in nature.
Is there any debate? Do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Sanderson? No. No further debate, no right of reply. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that unanimous, Councillor Collins? Yep. We now move on to item, where are we? 4.7, summary of council investments as of the 31st of August 2001. And there's a recommendation to receive and note. Is there a mover? Councillor Sanderson, is there a seconder? Councillor Miles. Any debate? Question or debate?
Question, if I may.
Yep.
Through you, Mayor, General Manager. I can see that we've got, there's quite a lot there in at call at a very low rate. And a lot of the others seem to be locked up for quite a while. So is there an intention to, because that low rate balance is creeping up again, is there some reason for that?
Mr. Acting General Manager, can you assist through the Director?
Ask the Director to respond to that.
That's right. So you'll see at the moment, either with the month of August, yes, the on-call cash has actually increased to 8. Now, we've issued our first rates notice for the financial year. So what I did ask our officers to do in the first instance was to move our lots of the rates receipt that were just sitting in the basic Commonwealth account. So initially there was a movement onto the on-call account. For a short-term account, as verified by our investment advisors, at the moment, the 0.40, even though it's badged as an on-call account, is better performing than most of the term deposits that are in a shorter investment maturity.
Okay, good. And final question, is the medium-term growth fund, is that as far as we're going to go, 2 million?
Mr. Acting General Manager.
Director.
Sorry, beg your pardon. So the investment policy, as you'll be aware, is at 10%. So we won't exceed 10% of the portfolio in accordance with the investment policy. So we're just about there when we included the additional 500,000 that we included in August, on the 9th of August, as it's listed there in the report.
Any debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, declare that unanimous. We now move on to the next item, which is 4.8, which is motion to support businesses during lockdown. Councillor Sanderson. Councillor Miles. There's Councillor Miles, you seconded? Yep. You seconding? Councillor Miles?
Yes.
You seconding? Yep.
I am. I'm
okay.
Also potentially going to propose a amendment.
Okay. Councillor Sanderson, do you wish to speak to your motion, or do we want to hear the amendment?
I think we hear the amendment. And
yes.
See whether
Councillor Miles, do you wish to move your amendment?
I'll move an amendment that we add a point to that after a 28-day public notice period, that a one-off rates rebate of $400 for eligible ratepayers who are eligible recipients of either the Commonwealth COVID-19 disaster payment, the small and medium-term business support payment, or the federal and state grants program for micro businesses be included for this financial year.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Collins. Councillor Miles, you wish to speak to your amendment?
The intention, Mr. Mayor, of the notice of motion that was brought to last council meeting was to bring Hunters Hill into parity with other neighbouring councils that had not only supported businesses through online portals, which we are doing, and running a shop local campaign, which we are doing, but is to also provide this commercial rates rebate for businesses that were affected and are going to be affected by COVID-19. You need only walk through Gladesville or Boronia Park or through the village at Hunters Hill to know, the effect that this is having on small businesses. I think it is only reasonable for us as a council that borders many commercial precincts, particularly in Gladesville and Boronia Park, where on one side of the road you have businesses that have access to this rates rebate through Ryde City Council, and on Hunters Hill side, if we don't pursue this policy, the businesses on the Hunters Hill side of the road will be at a disadvantage. This is probably not going to be a majorly expensive exercise, but it is a worthwhile exercise for us. And I think every little bit helps. I think running a shop local campaign, particularly in the lead up to Christmas, is essential. I think that obviously anything that council can do to assist the business community to get through this tough period, we should be doing. And I think that this rates rebate, particularly something that has been offered to businesses in this area by adjoining councils, is something that we need to do and put on the table. So I'd ask that council consider actually moving forward with the rates rebate and making sure that the businesses in Hunters Hill are catered for as they are being catered for in Ryde and Lane Cove.
Is there any debate on the amendment, Councillor Crassel?
Oh, just a question. Thank you. So this is for businesses who own the building that they operate out of. That's correct?
This
Mr.
is
Acting General Manager.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. My understanding, this is for any business ratepayers.
any commercial rate.
So it's not that it's the person who owns the property, not the actual operator out of the property.
Well, the two categories that would be eligible would be a shop owner who operates out of their premises, or a rate-paying lessee that traditionally would pay the commercial council rates out of their outgoings in a rental agreement with a landlord.
Has that answered your question, Councillor Crassel? Yep. Is there further debate in relation to the amendment that's on the floor?
Just
Right.
again,
Yes, Councillor Crassel. Yeah.
Just to check with through you, Mr. Mayor, whether we would have an estimate of the financial impact of doing that.
Mr. Acting General Manager, the reasoning behind not doing that?
In there, we'd be looking at around about a bit over about $10,000 to $15,000, depending on the numbers. And if I could just clarify the eligibility, sorry, Councillor Miles, it was if you had a business and you own the property, or you're a business with having to pay the rates as an outgoing.
Yeah, but it would be any commercial rate payer in Hunters Hill, which would either be someone that pays commercial rates on a premises, or someone who pays rates as a component of their lease outgoings, which is the same as registering to vote or paying their rates, commercial rates. So
if someone had a vacant premises, they would get the $400 because they're paying commercial rates. The owner was, right, yeah, right, okay. I just want to clarify that so I understand the criteria.
Thank you.
Essentially, it is a very similar criteria to the Ryde and Lane Cove criteria.
Yep. Any further debate, Councillor Sanderson?
Yes, if I could, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager, ask in terms of administrating this scheme, I think it'd be fairly difficult to administrate. Can you give some estimate of the hours required to sort through this?
Mr. Acting General Manager, can you hear?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know whether I can actually say the hours required, but there will need to be significant documentation that needs to be provided from the various companies or individuals, depending on which way they're paying the rates. As I said, I think in the report that was my real concern, and whether the people would hand over their the information freely of what sort of grants they're getting off other levels of government. That said, I'm not saying it can't be done. Ryde's attempting to do it. I'm not sure how far down the track they've got, because they've only just advertised the rebate amount as the public through the public process. But I'm not saying we can't do it. It will take some significant time, I think, of staff to do it.
Any debate? Councillor Sanderson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I don't support the amendment. I think in these times it's important that funding is obviously required, but it is important that funding is well directed, and I don't think this proposal really directs it by it going to ratepayers rather than business owners, and then it becomes a bit impractical. I think other levels of government are far better equipped, and I know that through my own partner's experience and what her business is going through. So I don't really see this as being a terribly practical solution. At the end of the day, $400 is probably not a great deal in the scheme of things. And while the federal support isn't quite as good as it was in the first time around, there is still significant support. So I'm sorry, I can't support the amendment.
Councillor McLaughlin, you had your hand up.
I'm going to support it. I don't think all of our ratepayers or rate-paying businesses will take it up, so I don't think it's going to be significant. I think there are substantial hurdles, and it may just be too difficult for the $400. But for those who really, really need it, I think it's incredibly important. And I think as a council, I think we just have to work. And I know it's going to be difficult, but I think we need to work through the administrative hardships that we might face, because our businesses are doing it very, very tough at the moment, and we're seeing them close as well. So I just think we need to be providing this assistance, and it sends a very clear message that we are trying to support our local businesses as much as we can.
Any further debate? Councillor Collins.
I'll speak briefly in support of it. I can't for the life of me understand how this wouldn't be a unanimous decision. At the moment, I mean, I've personally written over 24 letters in support of businesses that require state government support. It is tough out there, and it is harder than it was a year ago, and you know, last March, the first lot of lockdowns. So anything, I think every level of government, local, state and federal, has a responsibility here. And as Councillor Miles said, this isn't exclusive to Hunters Hill. It's they're already doing it in our neighbouring councils. This is not even beyond that. Now, to use someone's own positive experience to say that, oh, well, it might not be necessary, or 400 is not much, or whatever. You know what, if someone has to take, someone wants to take the time to fill out that form and apply for it, well, I think they need it. Now, our rate revenue base is pretty much locked in for eternity. But some of these businesses aren't going to open again. So we need to be cognizant of that, and be sensitive that that anything we can do, and we can't do much, but it's something, and at least we're doing what our neighbours are doing in that tradition of helping in these difficult times. So I fully support it. It won't cost a lot of money, but it really could make a difference to those that need it.
Any further debate? Councillor Crassley.
Yeah, I agree as well. And I think that by including the business landlords as well, it means that those landlords are able to support the businesses in their buildings to hopefully help them stay open during this time as well. I don't think we have the sort of businesses who are going to abuse this. I think that we have pretty good relationships with the few businesses we have in our area, and we need to support them now so that they can support us as a council when we want to grow our economy and our night economy, and again, like with the previous motion, we need to work alongside our businesses, and this is just a nice easy way to do it. If someone needs it, they'll ask. If they don't need it, I don't think they will. So thank you for the suggestion.
Any further debate? I think everybody's spoken. Right of reply, Councillor Miles.
Just to say, I guess thank you to the staff. I know was probably a bit of a curveball at the last meeting, and Beck and the team have really sort of put a good plan together here. There are businesses out there that have not been able to operate for 10 and 11 weeks. You've got hairdressers and beauticians and the like. This is a small gesture in way of cash, but it really is one of those mechanisms that are very much in our hands as a council to say that we are hearing the hurt, and we are able to make these small economies in order to support our business community. And I think that as Councillor Crass always said, if your landlords can pass on that assistance to their rate paying lessees, or to their lessees more generally, then it's only a good thing. A lot of landlords are doing it tough as well. There are a lot of empty shops in Gladesville. There are a lot of empty shops in Hunters Hill. There are a lot of empty shops everywhere in Sydney at the moment. So providing the support is something that I think we're duty bound to do.
That closes debate on the amendment. I put the amendment. All those in favour? Against? That's declared carried. Now, the motion before us incorporates that. Any further debate on the motion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. We now move to item 4.9, which is reclassification of land at 4 Pittwater Road, Glazeville, which is actually outside our municipality. Councillor Miles.
Move the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Sanderson. Is there any debate? Nope. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that unanimous. We now move on to item 4.10, which is development applications determined by local planning panel in August 2021. Councillor McLaughlin, you've moved the motion, the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sanderson. Any debate? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. We now move to item, just let me get there, item 4.1. I've declared an interest which is non-pecuniary and non-significant, so I'll still sit in and chair the meeting at this stage. Is there a recommendation in relation, motion in relation to the recommendation? Councillor Sanderson, is there a seconder? Councillor McLaughlin, is there any debate? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that unanimous. We now move on to 4.12, which is the report of legal matters for August 2021. And there's a recommendation to receive and note. Is there a motion? Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor McLaughlin. Any debate? No debate. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that unanimous. We now move on to the next item, which is 4.13, which is development applications determined under delegation of authority in August 2021. Is there a mover to the recommendation to receive and note? Councillor Sanderson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Miles. Is there any discussion? Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'll move into the role that you once played. Some of these applications do concern me greatly. We have a number where we are replacing eucalypts with banksias and other similar tree substitutions. I think it's important that when we get to review our DCP, we need to be looking at measures to better control this. The tree loss is just completely unacceptable, particularly at a time when, as you and I, as the two councillors on our Bushland Management Advisory Committee, have received an excellent report from Macquarie University stressing the importance of establishing biodiversity corridors. While that means which typically a much smaller bush than these trees, it is incredibly important, this devegetation of the municipality, and I think it's something we just can't talk about it. At some stage we need to act.
Any further discussion? If not, put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. We now move to the minutes of the Conservation Advisory Panel. Recommendation receive and note. Councillor Sanderson is moved it. Is there a seconder? Councillor McLaughlin. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. We now move on to item 4.15, which is the Northern District Planning Panel. Councillor Sanderson, you've moved the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Councillor Miles. Any debate? Yes, Councillor Miles.
I have a proposed amendment, if I can, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
That in point 2A, that it read the mayor/community representative and the deputy mayor/community representative.
Sure. Does the mover accept that? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
My apologies, took me a while to find the unmute button. Something came over the top of it. Could Councillor Miles just reread that again, just to clarify?
Sorry, recommendation 2.A, read mayor/community representative and the deputy mayor/community representative.
So that means the mayor and deputy mayor of the day.
Right. No, look, I won't accept that, Mr. Mayor. There are instances where we've had community representatives have carried on beyond their term of council. I know Emeritus Mayor Hoogman did that, so no, I won't accept that amendment.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Collins, do you wish to speak to your amendment, Councillor Miles?
Briefly, I mean, I would have thought that that the Northern Planning Panel in the months after December through to the appointment in June should be represented by the elected mayor and deputy mayor. I don't think that is a controversial view to have. I think that it's probably better that is the case, and it is the normal practice that the mayor and deputy mayor or community representative as appointed by council after a process gets to sit on that panel. So I just don't know why we are nominating councillors that may or may not be present on council for 6 months after the term ends.
Is there any further debate? You don't need right to reply, I guess, on the amendment. No. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Declare it carried. We now move back to the motion by Councillor Sanderson. Any debate? No. If not, put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Collins, are you voting? Yep. Declare that carried unanimously. We now move on to item 4.16, which is allocation of funding to we've dealt with that earlier in the business paper. So that brings us to the late item, which is now 4.17, which is the novation of garden organics processing services. That was circulated by the Acting General Manager earlier today. Councillor Miles.
Is this to be dealt with in closed session or?
No. It just doesn't need to be. And Mr. Mayor, can I just get you to rule that as a matter of urgency that it be included in the agenda, just for the record?
Certainly. As a matter of urgency, I believe 4.17 now needs to be included in the business paper as a matter of urgency. Councillor McLaughlin has seconded that. Councillor, do we need to put that, Mr. Acting General Manager?
No.
No, okay. So is there any debate about the recommendation which has been moved by Councillor Miles and seconded by Councillor McLaughlin? Nope. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Now brings us to the last item on the business paper, I think, which is question with notice from Councillor Collins, 7.1.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, just briefly, there's been a little bit of back and forth on this particular issue, and I think it's important that we bed down the issue here. Basically, if we start with question number 1,
Well, probably the easiest way to deal with this, Councillor Collins, is have your questions been answered.
No, they have not, Mayor, and they have not, and they're incorrect. So do you want me to just get on with it, or are we just going to play, you know, we obviously need to go through these questions because they incorrectly answered. So,
well, I'd like to ask the Acting General Manager, do you believe you answered these questions correctly?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe they're correct. If there's other questions, table them and we'll bring back answers to those.
Yes, so are there other questions, Councillor Collins, in addition to this?
Mayor, the question has been answered incorrectly.
No, Councillor Collins, you've been advised that the staff have answered it correctly.
It is
and if you have
right
further
to
questions,
ask clarification on a point that I put here on notice, Mayor, and I will put the point because I have asked the question and it hasn't been answered. I would like to get clarification on a point, and you're not going to silence me on this because I'm entitled to ask this question.
You're entitled to ask a question, but
the clarification
you're not
I wish
entitled
to,
to argue against the answers you've been given.
The clarification I would like to seek, Mayor, if I may through you, was Hunters Hill Council's original plan to refer the 2021 financial statements to the auditor without a resolution of council inconsistent with 413, what was supposed to be 2C of the Local Government Act? No,
but you've asked a question. I'll ask the Acting General Manager, do you have an answer for that?
I think I've answered it, and I'd say no, it wasn't.
So there's the answer to that. What other questions do you have?
Mayor, I want to understand why I'm looking at the Local Government Act, the Code of Accounting Practice for Local Government, and it states something otherwise. Every single question that's been answered here is wrong. And I'd like to see clarification why I'm reading the Act and apparently I'm reading a different Act to everybody else. So may I seek that clarification, Mayor?
Well, you have sought the clarification.
Are we covering this up, or are we going to be transparent?
We're not covering anything up. You've been given answers which the Acting General Manager is confident about. And if you have further questions, you're entitled to ask.
I'm entitled to seek clarification. I have a question of the General Manager through you, Mayor.
You can ask a question by all means.
On page 8 of the Code of Accounting and Financial Reporting, which is the approved form referred to in the Act, it states at 2, the Local Government Act requires a council resolution prior to the financial statements being sent to audit. The question I have, Mayor, is, has the General Manager read this Code of Accounting Practice, and why does it state the opposite to what he's just replied to my answer?
Mr. Acting General Manager, do you have an answer for that?
I have read the code, and I think the answers I've put in there clarify why we thought, why the council's done what they did in the past. As I've said, I have a different approach, and hence why we're doing it the way we're doing it this year.
But see,
I don't know why we keep debating this, councillors.
Because it was a simple mistake that I saw clarification on, and then there's just been it's just piled on absolute misdirection, misinformation, and incorrect information provided to councillors.
Councillor Collins,
understanding of the process is incorrect, and I don't have faith in the financial information that I'm being provided with.
Councillors, we just adopted the statements tonight to go to the order.
There's a point of order.
What's the point of order?
What's the provision?
15.11 D doesn't, I don't suppose it goes as far as insult, but makes personal reflections or imputes improper motives on any other council officer alleges breach of council's code of conduct. Well, I think it comes within imputes improper motives.
What's the improper motive? I simply say that they were wrong.
No, you don't have a choice to debate it. The business is suspended while we deal with this matter, and I uphold the point of order.
This is ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to challenge it because you are covering something up, and this is not transparent. So I challenge that.
In what way?
I challenge that. And the defence is that I've asked a question.
No. What is the challenge?
The challenge to point of order. Are we doing this again, really?
No. The correct process is to put a motion of dissent.
You upheld. This is ridiculous. Why can't I just get an answer?
Councillor Collins, you have had an answer from the staff.
Okay, I have a question of the General Manager.
No, we're dealing with a point of order. And at this stage, you're required to provide an apology.
No, I will
retract the statement.
absolutely not provide an apology. I will not provide an apology for trying to improve the transparency and processes of the finances in this council, as I'm very well qualified to do. I have not been given an answer to my questions. I am being denied an answer to my question. And
Councillor Collins, I will again remind you of clause 15.7 that the chair's ruling must be obeyed.
I will not accept that. I'm being prevented from speaking. I'm being prevented from asking a financial process question. I'm being prevented from asking about governance processes at this council, and I will not apologise for doing that.
Okay. I'll put it to the council.
Mr. Mayor, before you do, sorry, could I just get some clarification?
You may.
Thank you. Through you, I'm just from what I'm understanding from having read the lengthy email exchange and hearing the discussion. From what I'm understanding, some questions were asked. The General Manager believes he's answered them. Councillor Collins is not satisfied with the answers he's been given. Is the council meeting the place, and I'm just asking for clarification on this, is the council meeting the place to accuse the General Manager of covering something up, thereby I guess, kind of making an assertion about his professional practice? And if it is the place, then that's fine. But I just need to understand before I vote on your point of order, because if it is the place where that is allowed to be done, yeah.
It's clearly not allowed to be done. And as Councillor Sanderson has mentioned, 15.11 item D clearly shows that councillors are not in a position to impute improper motives of council officials.
Thank you. So again, before I vote, so what would be the option for Councillor Collins to pursue his dissatisfaction with his accusation that the General Manager is covering something up?
Excuse me, I did not say that. I said there's been covering up and I can't get a clear answer. I did not assign anything that I've imputed. There is a cover up at the moment. I don't know who's trying to deny me. At the moment, Mayor, it's you that's trying to deny me from speaking.
So that's all my question, Mr. Mayor, for clarification, was just to understand what the avenue would be for Councillor Collins to pursue that if it isn't in the council meeting.
Well, the issue before council is a series of questions that have been asked, and the staff in good faith through the acting General Manager have answered those. They have nothing more to add at this stage, and the comments that have been made, I believe, from the point of order made by Councillor Sanderson, do constitute 15.11D, and that does require a retraction or an apology by Councillor Collins, and that's my ruling. And if the apology is not forthcoming and there's no motion of dissent, then I will move to 15.14 and expel Councillor Collins. Well, so, Councillor Collins, your last chance to retract.
I am going to challenge the point of order, and I'm going to implore every councillor to be sure that I am not correct. If you don't understand the questions that I've asked, throwing me out for asking a question and being transparent when I'm right.
Well, that's your assertion.
So I challenge that, and I'll put
Councillor
that
Collins,
to a vote.
that is your assertion. I rely on the acting general manager to provide that advice, and he's answered it in good faith, and therefore,
is it correct though?
you need. I'm the chairperson, and I've ruled that you need to apologise or retract. Otherwise, you leave me no choice to have you expelled from the meeting.
Yeah. I cannot, because I've tried everything.
Okay, righto. Well,
I've
Mr.
challenged
Mayor,
there.
can I make a
yes,
comment?
Mr. Acting General Manager.
And
Yes.
I'd prefer, I mean, I really probably should jump out of this after this, but my advice would be, if Councillor Collins does not believe that we've given correct advice, would be to write to the Department of Local Government and seek clarification. If he believes there's something I've done untoward, there's a code of conduct that can be requested, and that would be dealt with by an external person. So there's lots of ways to deal with it. Where we are at the moment in the meeting is there needs to be Councillor Collins has challenged the Mayor's ruling, and he has stated why, and there needs to be a vote on that as to whether the dissent to the ruling is carried. And if it is, then we carry on. If it isn't, then the Mayor can do what he's mentioned he was going to do.
And I'm entitled to speak to defend my point of order as I challenge your ruling.
No, it's not a point of order. Are you moving a motion of dissent?
Yes, I am moving a motion of dissent.
Okay, you have the right to speak for
Thank
5
you.
minutes.
I have repeatedly initially just asked a simple question about why council was being bypassed in the referral of the financial statements. After I pointed to a particular section of the Local Government Act, we got an email back, as is shown in the exchange, stating that the original bypassing of council, council meeting to refer this to the auditors is okay. However, we're bringing the financial accounts to the council anyway. Now, my issue with that is that clearly a mistake was made, or no one can explain to me why it hasn't been. And yet we're sort of saying, well, no, there was a mistake, but this is what we're doing anyway. Now, I've asked several questions by email, which is the proper channel. I got one-word answers when I put that to the General Manager, both of which were incorrect, and simply stated that all I'm asking is for clarification on a process, and I haven't been able to get a straight answer. And so I stated that if I couldn't get a straight answer, I would take it to a question with notice. The question with notice has been published, and incorrect responses to my questions have been published. Now, I seek clarification on why every answer here of the 5 questions I've asked are incorrect, and I'm not even allowed to clarify them. I'm being shut down from discussion by you, Mayor, who, quite frankly, really, this is not your area of expertise. You and I have had an argument about, whether it's deficit or surplus is a matter of opinion. Now, I am qualified to ask these questions, and I'm simply asking them, and I'm getting wrong answers by email. I'm wrong answers in the published business paper, wrong answers or not evasive answers at the meeting. And what else am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to hold management to account, which is my role as a councillor, when in fact I'm not allowed to, I'm given the wrong answers, and you, Mayor, will not even allow me to seek clarification. You actually deny my expertise in this matter. So I don't apologise. And if you want to throw me out for trying to improve the governance process at this council to the way that financial reports are processed and referred to the auditors, throw me out. Throw me out, that's fine. But I'm not apologising for seeking clarification on this, because I'm looking at it and I'm correct.
You finished? Right. Now, my position is clear. The General Manager in good faith has answered those questions and he stands by those answers. And the situation is that you have other avenues to pursue the issue. And I'm not going to sit here as a mayor and allow staff to be improper imputes of improper motives, because by saying that they are wrong and that they're hiding and a whole range of things, I think is not appropriate.
Now,
and
you're
that
the
has
one
been
hiding,
called
not
out.
them.
I'm not hiding
No, you're
anything.
the one, not them.
Councillor Collins,
You've answered the question.
Councillor Collins, this
Yeah.
is not a debate.
Well,
You've had your right to put your case. I'm putting my case that the acting General Manager has answered your questions to the best of their ability. They believe their answers are right. If you wish to challenge that further, as the acting General Manager has mentioned, there are other avenues to do that. Now, I'll put the motion of dissent. All those supporting the motion of dissent? Against? I declare that the motion of dissent lost on the basis of 4 councillors, myself, Councillor Sanderson, Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor Crassoy, and Councillor Miles and Councillor Collins supporting. The rest were against. So that now puts us in the position where I'll give you one last chance to retract or apologise. If not, we'll terminate it here. Councillor Collins?
I'm not going to apologise.
Okay, well, you're excluded from the meeting. Could the staff please terminate that contact? Okay, that brings us to questions without notice. Are there any?
Just the one I forwarded earlier today, which was just about increasing some recycling options for our various public parks and open spaces. And I think that that's in train, because I saw some lovely eco-bell things happening in the area today, and I think there's going to be some increases in some more recycling options in the area. So I'm happy with the answer.
Good, thank you. Are there any other questions without notice? Councillor Crassoy.
Just, Mr. Mayor, and I'll send it in an email as well, just to ask if the report on legal matters could come to a councillor briefing as it used to before the meeting where the matters are at the table, just so that councillors can, in a more informal environment, ask questions about some of those matters.
Okay. Mr. Tobin, Acting General Manager, do you wish to answer that now? Or?
Oh, Councillor, that's fine. We can do that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. Yep. Any other questions? If not, that concludes the meeting. Thank you for attendance this evening. I declare the meeting